is a really easy one. I woke up this morning singing, God is so good. I woke up this morning singing, God is so good. I woke up this morning singing, God is so good. My God is so good to me. Let's try that. I woke up this morning singing, God is so good. I woke up this morning singing, God is so good. Oh, I woke up this morning singing, God is so good. My God is so good to me. Early in the morning, I sing, God is so good. Early in the morning, singing, God is so good. Early in the morning, singing, God is so good. My God is so good to me. Every day, we stop. Here we go. Every day, in every way, God is so good. Oh, every day, in every way, God is so good. Every day, in every way, God is so good. My God is so good to me. Let's pray on that.
And so we take a moment to turn our attention within as we know the truth of our opening statement. So let us affirm it together. There is but one presence and one power in my life and in the universe, God the good omnipotence.
Let's do one that's from this sort of quiet place. It's still moving under there, but it's sort of quiet. And let's say I want a special shout out to anybody who came in on a ferry today. Was that you? Bless you. She did too, and I was so impressed. So impressed. Early, an hour early to catch a ferry.
6:20. Thank you very much.
6:20. Wow. All right. How about When I Cross the Water? When I cross the water, I sing God is so good, because she shows me, she has pictures every time. So she'll say like, hi, I'm here, and she's here before I am. And then she'll show me pictures on her phone of the sunrise that I haven't seen a sunrise in so long. Cause she's better to me. Let's do it. When I cross the water. Ready? 1, 2, 3. When I cross the water, I sing God is so good. Yeah. When I cross the water, I sing God is so good. When I cross the water, I sing God is so good. Well, my God is so good to me. Early in the morning, I sing God is so good. Early in the morning, I sing God is so good. Early in the morning, singing God is so good. My God is so good to me. Every day, every way. Every day, in every way, God is so good. Oh, every day, in every way, God is so good. Every day, in every way, God is so good. Yeah, my God is so good to me. I woke up one more time. I woke up this morning singing God is so good. Yeah, I woke up this morning singing God is so good. I woke up this morning singing God is so good. 3 times. My God is so. My God is so. My God is so. Give me Aretha Franklin stuff at the end here. Good too. Well done, you. Please be seated.
Good morning. And welcome to Seattle Unity, both in-house and at home. So just a reminder, if you have a prayer request and you're at home, type it in the chat box, as well as where you're watching from. It's been kind of fun to keep track of people. And then if you're in-house, the prayer box is right outside the door in the lobby. So just a couple of announcements before we have our announcements, and that is that next Wednesday there'll be a reception following the service hosted by Unity Worldwide Ministries, and they are also going to bless us and bless our building. So it'll be great. Also, next Sunday, I'm going to lead a workshop, Plan Your Own Celebration of Life or Your Memorial Service, okay? I know it sounds a little morbid. I've been having a little morbid dreams, but I think we can have some fun with it. I also want to let you know today is Outreach Sunday. So we will be collecting for Compass House, and it's one of the ways that we reach out to the rest of the community. So can our outreach people raise your hands in case they don't want to text and they want to give you some cash or check? These are the people to see. And then finally, our reader today is a special guest. It's Lucian Zell, and he is a poet. He's visiting us from Prague, and he will be selling books following the service right out in the lobby, so he'll sign those. You can check that out. That said, let's all greet another, except Jennifer has an announcement. I did not forget.
Good morning. You must wonder why I'm doing this. Okay, so Cindy McComish left town and said, you do the announcement. That's what's happened. Okay, so next Saturday, which is the 18th, which is the day after St. Patrick's Day, we're going to have a little get-together. So we're going to have a movie watching. We're going to watch Princess Bride, which is one of my favorites. I hope a lot of other people like that as well. But we're also going to have a little potluck. We're going to do some costumes. So nothing is too weird. I recommend green. Any combination will work for you. Bring something from the movie. If you've seen it, it's one of your favorites too. You know, come as the princess or the mysterious man in black or Spaniard swordsman or clever, you know, whatever. Clever Sicilian, that was the word I was looking for. Rodent of unusual side. I don't know. Whatever looks appealing to you and you got something, or go to the thrift store. It's all good. So it's next Saturday, the 18th, 6 o'clock. We're going to have food. So potluck, bring some stuff to share. Some gab around a little bit. And then at 7 o'clock-ish, we'll start the movie together. And we'll be upstairs here at Seattle Unity. Hope to see you there.
Is it family friendly?
Oh, it is family friendly. Yes.
That's what we like.
More family friendly than PG-13, I promise. Okay, so we will see you all then.
Please feel free to stand and do a meet and greet with each other as you are able. Stay standing as you are able. We're going to sing another one that many of you who've been here for a long time already know. If you don't, try your best. If this is new for you, I know it can be a lot of lyrics, but there's nothing wrong with messing it up or just smiling and step touching. It goes like this. I am as God created me, in the light, in the love, in the glory. I am as God created me, in the light, in the love, in the glory. Try that. I am. I am as God created me, in the light, in the love, in the glory. If you like harmonies, do them. I am as God created me, in the light, in the love, in the glory. Second part goes like this. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am. Try it. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the glory. I am. First part, I am. I am as God created me. In the light, in the love, in the glory. Do that again. I am as God created me. In the light, in the love, in the glory. Second part, in the light. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am. All right, so you probably picked it up, even if it was a brand new song for you. But now I'm going to make it hard, because that's what I do. It's what you pay me to do. So we're going to split the room. Folks on this side, you're going to follow these three congregants. On the end there, that's Steve. Oh, Steve is leading a writing workshop today after the service. So at 11:15, if you want to do a writing in community, you don't have to have any skills or talents. Steve, who is an author and an editor and a general all-around fabulous dude, is going to start this. And this is a brand new group, so I encourage you to join him. That'll be downstairs after the service.
11:15.
Yeah, 11:15.
To noon in the conference room.
In the conference room.
And it's really low stakes. Everybody just participates and enjoys the idea of writing in community with others.
I love your voice. You could tell me all sorts of things
I love yours too, Aaron.
about writing or whatever. Anyway, also, Venus is here today. This is Venus's second time singing. She's doing a great job. And you know Jennifer. So if you follow those folks over there, and these folks can follow me, you don't know what'll happen if you follow me. I could lead you anywhere. But you start with I am, and you start with in the light. 3, 4. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am. Same thing. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am. Switch. I am as God created me. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am as God created me. In the light, in the love, in the glory. Switch again. In the light, in the love, as God created. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am. Acapella, same thing. In the light, in the love, as God created. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am. That's great. I am as God created me. Everybody. In the light, in the love, in the glory. One last time. I am as God created me. In the light, in the love, in the glory. Well done, everyone. Please be seated. That whole first part of our service is designed to wake us up and just get our breath moving, which will open up our whole being to this next part, which includes a meditation. We'll have a silent meditation for about 3 to 4 minutes. But first, our first step into this contemplative space comes from a very special reader today, and that is poet Lucian Zell. Please join us.
Involved in autumn. I am not the only one involved in autumn. It sweeps across the brightest and the clearest fields. No matter how branches grip the sky, all leaves fall. Colors true to so many of the sun's wishes. Reds as whirling as a bonfire kicked by the wind, and yellows as lost in blazing as meteors. If I were to align fate's windows with the sun, I'd let birth be spring, life be summer, death be autumn. With winter left as a mysterious country anyone can visit when they want to forget time. Everyone asks me about inspiration, where it comes from. As Leonard Cohen wisely said, if I knew where the good songs came from, I would go there more often. Leonard Cohen also said that poetry is just the evidence of life. If your life is burning well, poetry is just the ash. Now, I'm going to read you one last poem. Before I do that, I'm going to give you two of my own definitions of poetry. The first is somewhat serious. Poets have to be careful about seriousness. It's kind of a shadow of our job. And that is that a poem is a brainbow. Not a rainbow, but a brainbow. When the rain of feelings is pierced by the sunlight of intellect. And the second, it was at a party in Prague where I live. Someone was saying, why do you write poetry? What's that about? And I really wanted to emphasize what it was. So I said, poetry is like cocaine. And somebody in the back of the room was like, where? Jeez. And I said, poetry's like cocaine. You do it in lines. It gets you high. And if you do the good stuff, you'll be addicted for life. Here's a little bit of my good stuff. Other light. Books are the light by which we read the world. Yet there are many other kinds of light. Hug lights. Children light, flower light. War is a kind of light, but a light that blinds anyone who looks at it directly. Advertising light hides more than it shows. Song light is an X-ray of the soul, showing where our secret broken bones are and how they might be fixed. Death light shadows us all. Love light is the strongest light, bringing a new world wherever it makes us shine. Everywhere, light looks at us, surprised at what it sees. Thank you.
All right, so harness that light within that always is within. See its color and shape and how it fills you. Love lights and pup lights and song lights, the lights that called to you today. Settle into your space, and we'll sing this together. Shalom, 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 shalom.
How do you know if you've done everything right? Is it the love you have at hand, or the cash you kiss at night? How do you know if it was worth it in the end? Did every second really count? Or were there some you should have spent on anything but anyone you love? Is this the life that you were dreaming of? A movie night, a yellow light, you're slowing down and days are adding up. Don't waste the time you have waiting for time to pass. It's only a lifetime, that's only a while. It's not worth the anger you felt as a child. Don't waste the time you have waiting for time to pass. It's only a lifetime, that's not long enough. You're not gonna like it without any love, so don't waste it. I'm unimpressed by the people preaching pain for the sake of some small gain, in the sake of someone's name. I'm unprepared for my loved ones to be gone. Call them way too often now, worry way too much about mom. Don't waste the time you have waiting for time to pass. It's only a lifetime, it's only a while. It's not worth the anger you felt as a child. Don't waste the time you have waiting for time to pass. It's only a lifetime, it's not long enough. You're not gonna like it without any love, so don't waste it. It's family and friends, and that's the truth. The fountain doesn't give you back your youth. It's staying up too late at night and laughing under kitchen lights so hard you start to cry. Don't waste the time you have waiting for time to pass. It's only a lifetime, that's not long enough to wait one more minute to show them your love, so don't waste it.
Justin Huertas. Justin Huertas, welcome home.
I think that song sums it all up, so thank you. So in our series for the year, The Cycle of Life, we are beginning at the end. And so far we've covered aging, near-death experiences, and today I want to cover the soul. But some of you have been sharing your stories and thoughts with me about the last couple of weeks, and actually a few weeks ago, I talked about the idea of how important it is to hold on to your friends when you're young as you age, because they never see you as you look now, they see you as then. And Louise Carnahan texted me this quote from Shakespeare that I have to share with you. "To me, fair friend, you can never be old, for as you were when first your eye eyed, such seems your beauty still." So hang on, dear old friends. So again, today I want to explore the soul and talk about falling down a rabbit hole. There's so much. There are so many stories and images about the soul. It is a theme in TV shows like Lucifer and The Good Place and Dead Like Me, and I'm sure it goes on. It's a theme in movies like Angels in the Outfield, Field of Dreams, Sixth Sense, Heaven Can Wait. Again, the list goes on. Recently, Disney covered this topic in Coco about the Day of the Dead, and another Pixar film called Soul. I don't know how many of you have seen that, but Soul is about a jazz musician, and he finally gets his dream of being able to play with a jazz great, only to die before he can get to the club that night. And so he's supposed to go up toward the light and into the afterlife, and he refuses to go because he's like, no, I finally got my chance, and I'm not going. And he ends up, he tries to get back to earth, and he can't, and he ends up with all the unborn souls who have yet to be born and have yet to come to earth. And the story goes from there, and I will come back to it. So I want to begin with Unity's perspective. And Unity's perspective is that we are threefold beings. We are spirit, we are soul, and we are body. And Charles Fillmore said, the co-founder of Unity, said that the soul is the pivotal point between the body and spirit. So it's the soul to decide, am I going to be totally focused and wrapped in my body so that I get lost in it, or am I also going to be focused on spirit? So it's this pivotal point. So what I've always liked about Unity is that we don't have a strict doctrine, like other than God is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient, and God is good. That's sort of a doctrine. It is a doctrine. But we don't say what you have to believe about certain things, because we empower the individual to discover that for themselves. So within Unity, most people believe in reincarnation, but it isn't one of our doctrines. Charles Fillmore believed that he was reincarnated and that he was the reincarnation of no one else other than Paul, St. Paul. So, you know, you're never anybody just ordinary, right? Edna Carter, she's a writer, a Unity writer, literally from 100 years ago, said that all of the personal, the limitations, relations, all must give way to the universal, to the Christ. The privilege is ours to give up or forsake everything, father, mother, wife, children, houses, lands, and so enter into the consciousness of the absolute. So to give up everything, to go into the consciousness of the absolute. And again, I'm going to come back to this. But I wanted to go over what some of the of different religions believe about the soul. So in Christianity, the belief is that the soul enters the fetus right at conception. In Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the soul is judged at the time of death, which determines whether it goes to heaven or hell. Christianity believes that when Jesus returns, there will be a mass resurrection of all the souls that shall rise from their grave, which is why you should be buried and probably embalmed. And truthfully, Judaism and Islam also have similar beliefs about this big kind of resurrection at the end. Hinduism, the soul is reincarnated until it reaches a point of enlightenment, and then it is set free. So the goal is to not be reincarnated, is to wake up so you don't have to be. In Buddhism, there's also a belief in reincarnation, and the image is that the body is the candle and the flame is the soul and the spirit. The Kikuyu of Kenya believe that there is a collective soul in your family and then an individual soul. In Chinese philosophy, the yang soul leaves the body and the yin soul remains with it. So we could go through so many other different cultures and religions to see then what is the soul, but we do see some similarities. And one of the similarities seems to be that there's some kind of judgment. There's some kind of life review or an accounting at the end of one's life, as well as another similar theme seems to be a journey into the underworld. Now, some cultures have very detailed stories about the underworld, like the Greek and the Roman myths, yeah? But also the Egyptians. I mean, boy, they had it down, didn't they? They are like, the Egyptian tombs were constructed to house the body of the dead, but they also functioned to transmit the soul to the underworld. So it was sort of like this, you know, like an elevator or something. And not only was it something that would help you get to the other world, but in order to assist the dead, most tombs were decorated with texts to guide the deceased souls to the afterlife. So like instructions, right? It's like, okay, you're here. Now you got to do this, and you have to do this, and you have to do that, and then you can get there. So in order to enter, one must have lived a good life. And again, so there we are, back to the life review. We're back to the judgment. And the Egyptians compared the journey of the soul, they followed it as like to the journey of the sun. So there's 12 hours of sunlight, 12 hours of darkness, and so the journey of the soul then needs to go into the underworld to then rise again. That was one of the beliefs. They called the immortal soul Ka. Now, when the soul finished their journey to the underworld, they arrived at a place called the Hall of Ma'at. And the soul was addressed by Ma'at, and you had to say the 42 names of Ma'at. And then you had to recite all the sins that you didn't commit. I know, that seems a little crazy. So you could stand there and go, well, I've never killed anybody, and I've never, so you have to go through your list of all the things that you never did, that you never committed these sins. And then if you pass that, then your heart was weighed along with a feather. So there was a scale that was brought out. Your heart was put on one, and a feather of Ma'at was put on the other. And if they balanced, then you were able to go into the afterlife. You were home free. If it didn't, then the goddess Ammit came and basically destroyed your soul. So, but we won't go there. So after judgment, entities were thought to return to the mother goddess's womb. And during this stage, the soul wouldn't even meet the former body that is restored. So the Egyptians have a very detailed, and I'm sure I just scratched the surface, a very detailed story about, what happens in the afterlife. And of course, we have the images in Roman and Greek mythology of the taking the ferry over the river Styx, right, to go into the underworld. So there's this rich, incredible view of the soul. So last week I talked about Proof of Heaven, Eben Alexander's book. And what's interesting to me is that he describes the different levels that he goes through once he is, crossed over into the other side. And what he's describing clearly resembles the underworld. He said darkness, but a visible darkness, like being submerged in mud. He compared it to being able to see through like dirty jello. And he said that these grotesque animal faces bubbled out of the muck, groaned and screeched, and then they were gone. So it sounds very much like Hades, doesn't it? It sounds like the underworld that we hear within these myths. And and then he heard these clanging metal sounds and all this stuff. And when in 97 I was very sick and I almost died. And I never saw like this light or this tunnel, because people are like, oh, and it's like, I'm sorry to say it, but all I ever saw was metal. I just saw metal, like metal everywhere. And then I was reading his book, and he describes all this metal and mud. And so it's kind of like the first level, right? Maybe it's meant to see if it'll scare you back. So is this the first level of the underworld? That's the question. And is this where we stay depending on our consciousness, right? Because if this is what we're believing, and there's these faces and these things coming out of the mud, if this is what we believe and this is our consciousness, is this where we stay? And then he says, then I heard a sound, a living sound, like the richest, most complex, most beautiful piece of music that you have ever heard. And I began to move up fast to a world that was brilliant, vibrant, ecstatic. And he begins to describe these different things, these different experiences, and he calls it the core. He calls it the gateway, and then he calls it the core. He calls God Om, because he said it goes beyond anything. It's just a sound. It's all encompassing. But it's also being immersed in this divine love, that was the full experience of all this other stuff that was going on. He says, I moved, and then he starts to come back and come down. He says, I moved down through these great walls of clouds, and there was a murmuring all around me, but I couldn't understand the words. And then I realized that countless beings were surrounding me, kneeling in arcs that spread in the distance. And looking back on it now, I realize what they have been. Half-sensed hierarchies of beings stretching out into the dark. And I figured out what they were doing. They were praying for me. So when he came back to life, sort of, he found out that there were prayer circles going for him at his church and at other churches, and his family. And his son was sitting there, and his family was always with him and praying. And he said he could feel these prayers. He could see their faces. And there was like this pull that was bringing him back to this reality and to this life. When he describes the higher levels of consciousness, he believes that the only reason he was able to experience it is because he had no idea who he was. When he first goes into this place, he's like, he didn't know his name, he didn't know his gender, he didn't know anything. And so he felt like he had no attachments, no identity, and he was able to move to the higher realms. Because when he talked later with other people who have had near-death experiences, they still held on to their identity to a degree. And if they held on to their identity, they were unable to continue moving up. And it raises the question for me, particularly like with Alzheimer's, right? The way you forget everything. And it's like, I wonder if... Actually, it was James Dillett Freeman who said this, because his wife had Alzheimer's, and he said, I think that's what's happening is that she's forgetting who she is and what's going on now while she's in her body, so she doesn't have to do it once she passes over. So that's one way to look at that. But I want to go back to the quote by Edna Carter. All of the personal, the limitations, relations, all must give way to the universal, the Christ. The privilege is ours to give up or forsake everything. Father, mother, wife, children, houses, lands, and so enter into the consciousness of the absolute. So just as even Alexander is saying, I didn't know who I was, and since I didn't know who I was able, he had given it all up, he had let it all go, and he was able to move to this place. So isn't it Shakespeare who said, our life is but a sleep and a forgetting? Wordsworth said that. See, I'm hooked on Shakespeare right now. So in the film Soul, the main character is focused on his purpose, and his purpose is music, and that's all he cares about. He's just focused on being able to play the piano. But he discovers that there is something that goes even beyond purpose. And that is a spark for life, because one of the other souls comes with him, and she's fascinated by a tree, and she's fascinated by everything. And he realizes that he doesn't have that spark. He's got a purpose, but he doesn't have the spark. And so the fate of the soul is not only to have a purpose, but it's also to be present to the wonder of life. It is to love, and it is to enjoy life. It is to love your kids, your friends, your community, your spouse, your animals, nature. That is what it is all about. And in the movie Soul, he's able to come back, not because he has a purpose in life, but because he has that spark and that wonder, and he's willing to look at the entire world as a miracle, and as it's like the song that you just sang, right? About being there and being aware and being awake. So the practice of loving kindness is the path to awakening, and it is the path to God. So I want to close with, again, the words from Eben Alexander. He said, "This is the true spiritual self that all of us are destined someday to recover. But until that day comes, I feel that we should do everything in our power to get in touch with this miraculous aspect of ourselves, to cultivate it and to bring it to the light." How do we grow closer to this spiritual self? By manifesting love and compassion. Why? Because love and compassion are far more than the abstractions that many of us believe them to be. They are real, they are concrete, and they make up the very fabric of the spiritual realm. So we don't have to wait until we cross over and we die. We can go there now. We can practice now to connect with divine love, to connect with Om, to connect with the other realms of existence, if you will, to open our hearts and to be in that place. So that is my prayer for every single one of us. Amen. And I invite you to watch the movie Soul. Maybe we should do that on one of our viewings some night. So we now come to that time in our service where we share our tithes and love offerings. That goes for you at home as well. And as our ushers come forward, I want to invite you to give, whether it's check or cash. And if you give electronically, you might want to grab one of those cards that in the chair in front of you, and hold that in your heart so that you have something physical to bless. And you can give through the text number. I give willingly, joyfully, and lovingly, knowing that God is the constant source of my supply. I give with graciousness and receive with gratitude.
To the colorblind, this is an IOU. I'm stranded behind a horizon line, tied up in something true. Yes, I'm grounded, got my wings clipped. I'm surrounded by all this pavement. Yes, I'll circle while I'm waiting for my fuse to dry. Someday I'll fly, someday I'll soar, someday I'll be so damn much more, 'cause I'm bigger than my body gives me credit for. Why is it not the time more to learn. Shed this skin I've been tripping in, never to quite return. Yes, I'm grounded, got my wings clipped. I'm surrounded by all this pavement. Yes, I'll circle while I'm waiting for my fuse to dry. Someday I'll fly, someday I'll soar. Someday I'll be so damn much more. 'Cause I'm bigger than my body gives me credit for. Hey, someday I'll fly, someday I'll soar. Someday I'll be so damn much more. 'Cause I'm bigger than my body, bigger than my body, bigger than my body gives me credit for.
And I want to remind you that we do have chaplains available to pray with you. So raise your hand. She's right there in the purple. It's Colleen. And just a reminder that Lucian has books if you want to get a poetry book, and Steve's writing group that starts at 11:15. And here comes our prayers. Thank you, Mark. So let's just take a moment as we become still and centered. First of all, giving thanks for the generosity of this community. And so we hold in our prayers Judy and Jennifer for healing. And we hold for divine health Paula, Ron, Liz, Karen, Glenda, Brian, and family. I invite you to take a deep breath. And we bless and we hold the highest and best for Chris and Evan, for Naomi and family, Diane and Pat. We hold and send our prayers and lights to Pat and Hallie, to John, Clyde, and Arlene, to Marianne, to Bob, to Cherie and friends, and Sabrina. And I invite you to speak the names of anyone that you know who is in need of healing, in prayer, prosperity, guidance, whatever it may be. Speak their names right now. And so we affirm our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
It is. Graydon says, and that's the truth. Agree. Agree. +1. Like. Please stand as you are able. If you'd like to hold hands, you may, but always get consent. We're in post-COVID time, so we want to make sure everybody's comfortable with that. I want to say thank you especially to our special guest, Justin Huertas, who's back with us. Yay! After, we haven't seen him for a while because his show, you remember his show? It was picked up by like a lot of different places, and he got sent to London and New York, and now he's back to Seattle. He has a new show coming up at the Rep. It's called Lydia and the Troll. Get tickets for that. It's an awesome thing. And I also want to invite you to support him by joining his Patreon. So frequently when our artist friends get picked up for something, they're off to New York. We imagine them in a Ferrari, right? We imagine that they've gotten incredibly rich, but they actually still need to have lots of support. And a Patreon is a consistent subscription that makes for a reliable income, which is sort of very cool. It's very cool. Hey,
Jen is one of the patrons on that. It's a good thing, right?
Oh, some of my favorite artists, especially when we were home during COVID and I couldn't go see them, and so yeah, I'm on Justin's favorite. So I get sneak peeks and music videos and lyrics and show announcements, and it's very, very cool. Highly recommend.
So we probably won't see Justin again for a while because he's going to go off into the universe again, and then he'll come back. But he'll only come back if we support him. So let's do it. Shanti, Shanti.